Let's talk about independent work, because if you are listening to this, there's a good chance it's something you've struggled with. Welcome back to Special Educators Resource Room Podcast. I'm Jennifer from Positively Learning. I'm so happy you're tuning in. Maybe you've tried task boxes, or maybe you've tried work bins or some other type of busy work, and it was supposed to give you 5 minutes, but instead it gave you chaos. And at some point, you probably thought, this might work for other classrooms, but not mine, especially if you're teaching in a self-contained setting. Today, I want to slow this conversation way down. I am not going to give you another list of ideas to try, but I do want to talk about why independent work does fail, because it often does. But that doesn't mean it can't work for you. So what is the real problem? It might not be what you think. When teachers often say independent work doesn't work, they usually think it's one of these 3 things. Maybe they'll say, my students aren't ready, or these tasks, they're not right for my students. Or maybe they are, but I don't have time to prep all of this. But here's the truth, and I say this very gently, those might not be the real problems. I know, you're probably thinking, no, Jen, those are the real problems. And I hear you. Let's circle back to that at the end. Let's think about this. Think about how independent work is usually introduced. You're handed materials, but you're not handed a plan. You're told to rotate tasks, but not why. And you're expected to differentiate, but you don't have a system to support that. So what happens? Teachers do what good teachers always do. They try harder. They add more tasks. They switch things out. They overplan, which eventually leads to burnout. Now I want to speak directly to self-contained teachers for a moment, because independent work can feel very different. You're not managing one level of need. You're managing different communication levels, different attention spans, different behavior supports, different goals, all at once. So when someone says, just set up independent work, it almost feels insulting. Like, okay, but how? This is where a lot of teachers decide independent work just isn't realistic. But here's the reframe. Independent work doesn't fail in self-contained classrooms because students can't do it. It may fail because the expectations, they just change too fast. So let's reframe. Independence doesn't come from novelty. It comes when things feel predictable, when students don't know what the task will look like, where it belongs, what's expected. They're going to rely on you, not because they want to, but because they have to. But when the structure stays the same, students can start to relax, and relaxed students learn. Most independent work systems fail because they are designed around the materials, not decision-making. And once you fix that, everything can change. So instead of planning independent work as a one-time setup, I want to think about it in 4-week cycles. Not because 4 weeks is a magical number, but because it gives you time to observe without panicking. The goal of the cycle is not perfection, it's trust. So here's what I would walk through if we were setting up a 4-week coaching cycle to get your independent work to work in your classroom. Let's kick it off with week 1, what I refer to as starting smaller than you think. Most independent work systems fail in week 1, not because teachers are doing something wrong, but because they're doing too much. Week 1 should never be about variety. It should be about building trust. You're choosing a small set of tasks, maybe 5 or 6, and you're letting them stay not forever, but long enough for students to feel safe. Independence doesn't start with mastery. It starts when things feel familiar. Week 2. This is about fine-tuning, not replacing. Week 2 is where teachers usually start to panic. They start asking, okay, what's next? But here's the shift. Progress doesn't always mean moving on. Sometimes progress means repeating the same task, but this time with less support. So in week 2, you're asking who met their goal, who is almost there, and who needs something adjusted. And most of the time, the answer isn't a brand new task. It's a different level of support. Moving on to week 3. Same task, new purpose. By week 3, something interesting happens. Teachers realize they don't need separate materials for every part of the day. The same task can be used for independent work, morning work, a check-in, or a progress monitoring tool. And this is where planning may start to feel lighter because you stop reinventing the wheel. Repetition isn't laziness. It's a strategy. Okay, we've made it to week 4. This is the system. Week 4 isn't about celebrating perfection. It's about noticing what's calmer, what takes less effort, what doesn't require constant explanation anymore. At this point, teachers are starting to realize something important. Independent work didn't fail before because the tasks were wrong. It failed because it was missing the system behind the decisions. If this advice is starting to land differently as you listen, that's not accidental. It's because we're not chasing the right activity anymore. So much advice out there focuses on what to use. We're talking about having a way to make decisions without second-guessing yourself. That's the shift that changes independent work from something that feels heavy into something that actually supports your day instead of adding to it. I want independent work to stop feeling like one more thing to manage and start feeling like a support. You were never the problem. The missing piece has been a system that works with you. So if independent work has ever felt impossible, you weren't wrong. You were just trying to solve a system problem with more materials. And that's exhausting. Independent work doesn't require you to do more. It requires you to do less on purpose. And when you have a system you trust, everything changes. If this all sounds doable, but you want to see it in action, come hang out with me over on YouTube. I'll be sharing more examples and breaking down what independent work actually can look like in your classroom. I'll also be posting more on Instagram and TikTok. So if short and sweet visuals are more your style, I've got you covered there too. And real talk, I missed doing my summer training last year. Life got lifey and I had to take a pause, but I'm committed to showing up this year, starting now, with practical training that actually fits your schedule and your classroom. So if you're building systems and refreshing routines or just trying to get through January without reinventing everything, I've got you. Do less on purpose. And I'll see you next time in the Special Educators Resource Room. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'm dying to ask, what'd you think? Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe buttons so that you never miss an episode. You can find the show notes and links for everything mentioned in this episode at positivelylearningblog.com. See you next week for more special education solutions.